All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us. Another episode of Catching Up with Jacob. And here he is, Jacob Prash, all the way on the East Coast. How are you, Jacob?
Always good to be in my native hometown, New York City. Wonderful to be with you all in these exciting yet perilous times in which we find ourselves in the providence of God.
Well, it's good to come home. It's good to come home. Not too far from me. Jay, how are you, Jay?
Well, I might be jumping the gun a little bit here, but I do have to say I'm very happy that on April 8th that nothing will happen to California because we are completely out of the line
Is
of
that good
the
news?
the alignment.
Yes,
Yes,
the good news. We're not on the X.
Nope.
I've seen the map. That's true.
California is in the clear. No wickedness is too much for California, but we're in the clear.
All right. Well, Jay, you're doing really well. Thank you. Uh, and I don't know if the clips is going to even be visible from Australia, but Davey, how are you today?
Yeah, doing pretty good, thanks. Doing pretty good. Good to be here.
All right. Good morning. It's Saturday morning there. God bless you. Thanks for joining us. Jacob, I love your shirt. Love it.
It's a map of the New York subway system. Uh, this way I don't get lost if I take the subway. If I want to know where I am and where I'm going, I just have to look at my shirt. My sister gave it to me as a joke. In my youth, I, of course, knew my way around the subways without looking at the map too much. But having lived abroad so long, now I have to look at the map sometimes. So
Yeah.
there it is.
All right. Well, just a few announcements. You're teaching this weekend with Dave Rossetto at the church on the open door. Is that right?
We'll be at the Church of the Open Door 7 p.m. on Saturday on 3rd Avenue and East 7th Street in the East Village. And then we'll be at the Church of the Open Door in Baltimore, 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. The details are on the Moriel website, the itinerary page, or you can just Google Moriel itinerary and find it. That's where we shall be. When I get back to England in a few days, next weekend on Saturday, we shall be with Pastor Mark Jackson and with Pastor Tim Leach at the Moriel Affiliated Church in Winsford, in Cheshire, England, Winsford. Those details are also on the Moriel website on the itinerary page, or just Google Moriel itinerary. If you're in Cheshire, Liverpool, Merseyside, Manchester area, Staffordshire, we'll look forward to seeing you. If you're in the
Awesome.
Washington, Baltimore area, we'll see you Sunday. And if you're in Greater New York, we'll see you Saturday if you can join us.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. We had a great time here with Dave Rossetto and you over the weekend here in Southern California. So everybody loved it. Well, mostly everybody loved it. I'm sure there's some
Hopefully
naysayers.
everybody loved it.
Yeah, there's always some naysayers, but that's all right. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode. We want to remind everyone, we first want to thank everyone, I should say, for being on with us, not only live, but those who will watch later on Catching Up. We're on different platforms, including YouTube and Facebook, but Moriel TV, Moriel.tv, I should say, MorielTV.org. We are on Vimeo. We are on Telegram. We are on Rumble, which have been very kind to us. And of course, our newest platform is X. And we'll be on X until, I guess, Elon Musk doesn't want us there, but we're on X and it's going well. So if you are a Twitter user, an X user, find Moriel TV and you will find us. And we're actually live right now. So that'll be a great opportunity to get on it, to test it and look at it. We're posting some new things there. And hopefully we'll have some newer videos coming up and some exclusive stuff on X. So we have some fun stuff coming up that we like to do. And so welcome in the name of the Lord. So blessed to have you. If you want to ask questions, we will have questions on Backstage for Jacob. Go to Rumble, send the questions in. We'll get them in and we'll ask him and what he thinks of those things that are going on in the world, some biblical questions, some geopolitics, all kinds of good stuff. Well, I do want to mention the podcast. The podcast is going well as just as well as the videos, and those are audio only on podcast. Jay, remind me some of the platforms we're on.
Now, you can find us on Amazon. You can find us on Podchasers. You can find us on Apple. Apple is a great resource.
Apple.
And also, of course, anywhere that podcast can be found.
Amen. Well, Jacob, let's get caught up for a little bit. Things here are going very, very south in some parts of the world. Some parts of the world are just absolutely chaotic. But I did want to mention something. March 14th, which was yesterday, 1883, Karl Marx gave one of the most greatest contribution to mankind. What is March 14th, 1883, Jacob, and what did he contribute?
Well, if you go to Highgate Cemetery in North London, you'll see what he contributed. It's when he gave up the ghost. He realized he should have been a better Jew and a better Christian. His family were actually Jewish Christians. They don't know if they were saved, but that was his background. And of course, he went into Hegelian philosophy, dialectic, materialism, and so forth. And now he knows he was wrong.
Yeah, he's buried up in London. He's buried up in London, and what a tragedy! Of all the things that he taught and did, the anti-Christian ideas, the anti-God, the communist, the Marxism, responsible in a lot of ways for millions of people that have died over the course of history. So we're still feeling the effects of his teachings and Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto. And
No, indirectly. If you go to, well, right, when I was last in Moscow in Red Square, giant, humongous billboard opposite the Kremlin, and they have their own version of the Trinity. They have Marx, they have Engels, and they have Lenin, just like a Trinity. That's how they see it. There was a de facto deification of Marx, of Engels, and of Lenin. And it was, I have no doubt that communism, particularly Soviet communism, was a religion. It was a de facto religion. You have the same with Mao in China. You have the same with Ho Chi Minh in North Vietnam. You have the same with Kim Il-sung in North Korea. You have the same with Ceausescu in Romania. You have the deification of men, antichrist figures, and that is what happened. Marx was not as bad as his followers. He might have had some kind of noble intention, except his personal life and his family life were travesties. He couldn't take care of his family or himself properly. He was rather quite parasitic and hypocritical in his personal life, but he opened the door for unspeakable evil, and he was proven to be wrong. His theories of dialectic materialism and his theory of history was proven to be wrong. He said that communism would never come to Russia. Russia was too primitive. It was feudalistic. Communism had to evolve from capitalism, and it would only come from Great Britain, the first capitalist country. In fact, communism never actually came to Britain. It came to Russia, the last feudal country, where he said it could never work. He was fundamentally wrong, fundamentally proven wrong by history. Yet people still revere his legacy. There'll be people going up there on the 14th of March to Highgate Cemetery in London for a memorial. They will, will probably watch it online.
Yeah, what a mess. What a mess. Also, I wanted to wish you happy St. Patrick's Day. That's coming up next week on the 17th. So, Jacob, your family from Ireland.
My mother's family, yes.
Yeah, so happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you so much. As the, well, the Irish Americans used to say, Erin go brach, Ireland forever, except the Protestants used to say, Erin go back, because of the anti-Irish Catholic bigotry in New York, Chicago, and Boston. But Erin go brach or Erin go back, which had to do with the importation of the orange-green Catholic Protestant thing. But to our Irish friends, we wish you a very happy St. Patrick's Day. Every blessing. Don't drink too much Guinness. Don't drink too much Jameson's. Just enjoy the parade. St. Patrick was a missionary who preached the Christian faith. When you read his letter to Crodicus or you read his confessions, there was no purgatory, there was no pope, there was no rosaries. He just lifted up Jesus. The real Patrick had it right. What's become of him is something else.
Amen. Thank you, Jacob. Jacob, let's catch up. And the first thing I wanted to ask you is, of course, your hot take. Your hot take on what's going on with Fannie Willis, what's going on in that Trump case, what's going on with the NAACP, with Don Lemon, all these things that are just brewing as part of, it's a lashback against what's going on in the conservative world. These things are coming very fast, and it's all about racism. That's really all they really fomented that. So let's give you a hot take on that and take it away.
Well, as Thomas Sowell and as Candace Owen and Larry Elder and other knowledgeable blacks explained, this is simply to manipulate ignorant and uneducated black people, to blame a mythical systemic racism and to blame a history of slavery from 150 years ago or Jim Crow from 50 years ago for the present problems. The present problems of the black community, of course, have to do with a school system designed to fail, absentee fatherhood, and replacing a black husband and father with food stamps to create a permanent underclass that can be manipulated and to perpetuate a victim mentality that will simply generate racism. Barack Obama, who was half black, became president promising a racial reconciliation and left the country deliberately more racially divided than it has ever been. We can be sure of the following. The more this victim mentality is perpetuated, the more certain it is that blacks will remain the socioeconomically lowest strata on the socioeconomic demographic. That's what it's designed to do, is to make an underclass and prevent black people from becoming upwardly mobile in order to manipulate them politically. But everything becomes race. Let's just look at it. You have black overachievement in professional sports. We always have. We always have. You have black predominance in basketball. You have black predominance in obviously boxing. You have black predominance in a number of sports. They've even taken white people's sports and performed brilliantly, beginning with Arthur Ashe in tennis and, of course, Tiger Woods in golf. Black people have an incredible aptitude and an incredible physical performance capacity for sports. They've done well. They achieved those things and the astronomical salaries that go with it, not through affirmative action, but through hard work, hard practice, maintaining an athletically healthy lifestyle conducive to good health that an athlete needs to perform under those kinds of pressures. And they've done brilliantly. Now, I've always maintained that what black people have done in sports and in music, they can do in other things if they had a proper school system and proper motivation. But that is not what's happened. Black America has abandoned mostly the Baptist and Pentecostal heritage of their grandparents and great-grandparents. They've not gone the way of Frederick Douglass and of Booker T. Washington or of Harriet Tubman. They've gone the way of W.E.B. Du Bois and the racocrats, the race parasites who make their living in the race industry. People like Jesse Jackson and people like Al Sharpton and left-wing journalists like Joy Reid and so forth. These are people who make their living in the race industry, and it's their power base. Well, let's look what happened. Florida has said the taxpayers will no longer fund DEI in state-funded universities. The taxpayers should not have to pay for this kind of nonsense as DEI, diversity, equity, and
Inclusion.
inclusion, which by them, it means not equality in opportunity, but equality in outcome. Statistics, you got to have so many. Okay, well, suppose somebody was to say, we want DEI in sports. There are too many black players in baseball, in football, and in basketball particularly. With the exception of hockey, blacks have made inroads in disproportionate numbers in every sport, and that is discriminatory against white people. We want inclusion for, nobody would ever say that. Nobody would ever say that. Yet the NAACP, which was destroyed, in my opinion, by Benjamin Jealous. It is not the NAACP of previous generations, of Medgar Evers and so forth. The NAACP has told black athletes not to play for Florida schools, not to play for Florida teams. The one thing where, through simple achievement, blacks have outperformed and overperformed. They're saying, don't do that now because they're not giving us the results we want and having blacks who are less talented in other fields. This is a complete disgrace. But it goes on. It's not even logical. There are people screaming now that X refusing to financially sponsor Don Lemon, oh, that's because of racism. Well, no, it wasn't. Elon Musk had a reason to get rid of him before he came on. He can go on X. Now, he's not banned from X, but he's not going to get paid for it. Then we have Lori Bush from the Squad. This woman, Nancy Pelosi, allowed onto the House Judiciary Committee, despite the fact she's not a lawyer. And she said she's qualified to be on the House Judiciary Committee, although she did not go to law school, because she was part of the Michael Brown protests in Ferguson, Tennessee, where a thug robbed an Asian shopkeeper in the accompaniment of a ex-con who had pleaded guilty to lying to the police on a previous occasion, was cited by a policeman. He attacks the policeman, injures the policeman, and goes for the policeman's gun. The fingerprints are found on the holster. And gets himself shot going for this cop's gun after he robs the store, because this person who he was with, the ex-con, who previously lied to the police and admitted so, said, hands up, don't shoot. The autopsies, the forensic reports, the ballistics reports all showed that that scientifically could not have been the case. The FBI investigation carried out by a black Attorney General, Eric Holder, under his direction. The FBI, as well as the local police investigations, had 5 or 6 witnesses, all of them black, who did not give that kind of account. Hands up, don't shoot. The whole thing was a lie. The result was riots, looting, burning, and this Lori Bush says, well, she was part of this protest. What were you protesting? Somebody who robs a store, assaults a little Asian shopkeeper, assaults a cop, injures the cop, goes for the cop's gun and gets himself shot. Now he's the victim. That was her platform to run for Congress. But then we find out she's paid exorbitant salaries for personal security at the taxpayer's expense. Who did she pay these 6 figures to? Her husband. Oh, you're picking on me because I'm black. No, nobody's picking on you because you're black. How can you pay this kind of money to your husband? Exorbitant. Unbelievable.
Yeah, taxpayer money.
Taxpayer money. Then it goes on again. Absurdity of absurdities. Michigan State University. The basketball coach is Julian Horib. He has a 9-game straight loss record. They lose 9 games straight. In the last 3 years, he's been 45 out of 55. He's just a bad coach. He's not a good coach. He just can't get his players to perform. He's not a good strategist. He's a bad coach. He's being sacked, as he should be. He can't do the job. So therefore, a black journalist named Charles Hallman asks him, is this because of the white media? They racialize it. Don't look at his record, his record of losses and inability as a coach. Don't look at this ridiculous affirmative action president of Harvard with a documented record of 20 years of plagiarism. No, she's a victim of racism. It doesn't matter. The facts don't matter. What they did, what they didn't do, none of that. It's always about race. This is sick and perverted, and it will assure that black people never make it to first base. It will assure that the black man will always be the low man on the totem pole. They've been betrayed by their own kind. Uncle Tom was not an Uncle Tom. He was flogged to death by Simone Legree for not telling where runaway slaves were hiding. He was a man with a strong Christian faith in the book and in the play. But there was somebody called Sambo, who collaborated with the white plantation owners against other blacks, the overseers, the house black. And that is what these people are. These black poverty-crats, these people like Lori Bush or Congresswoman Presley, or, well, take your pick, Joy Reid, or Booker, Senator Booker. Take your pick. These are the Sandbos. Barack Obama is a Sandbo. Michelle Obama is a Sandbo. They are there to make black people stooges of white liberals. They are the overseers of blacks to keep them on the plantation, known as the housing estate. That's what they're there for. It's the same old game. It's the party of Jim Crow and slavery, holding the black man down and finding black Sandbos to do their bidding for them. That is what we've got. They racialize everything. This reflects their own racism, their own bigotry. The fact that nearly 3 out of 4 black children are born out of wedlock, that's not the fault of white people. It's not the fault. Absentee fatherhood is not the fault of white people. It's the fault of the moral breakdown in the black community and in the nation at large. Don't racialize it, but they have to racialize it because they can't face the facts or the truth. They're very much like the ANC of South Africa. They have to blame the past because they cannot take responsibility for their own failures of the future and the present.
All right. All right, Jacob, that's your hot take. Very good. Hot. And we'll get that up there on Catching Up. Jacob, let's talk about the other thing that's getting really, really hot, and that's the war. The war, Ukraine, NATO, Russia. France is mulling over the boots on the ground. Macron, taking a page out of the former dictator and emperor of France, wants to send troops into Western Ukraine. He wants to go all the way to Russia, seemingly. And now NATO's saying, hey, we got some hydrogen bombs that we can put on our fighter jets. We can go against Russia. Russia's saying, well, if you're going to do that, then we're going to be ready too. Now you got fighter jets over Sweden, over Finland, right on the border. Jacob, Macron has lost his mind. Not only is there controversy with his spouse, but also the fact that he wants the war. He wants to foment this war. NATO's the same way, I believe. Russia's the same way, I believe. This is going nowhere, and it's going to explode. I hope not, but it's going to explode soon.
Well, let's take your first point first and your second point second. There is no need for nuclear brinkmanship. It may be in response to the nuclear saber rattling of Mr. Putin, but there is no need for this kind of brinkmanship. We see something happening now in the Ukraine. The provision of Western technology. Although Ukraine is being emaciated by Russia, it's being decimated, Russia is absolutely being hurt, certainly economically. Now there are drones launched from Ukraine that are going 600 miles into Russia. 600 miles. Some have reached the St. Petersburg area, formerly Leningrad. Some have gone east of Moscow and hit an oil refinery. They are damaging Russia's capacity to refine oil, even for domestic consumption. They're trying to grind down the Russian economy. They are fighting, and the West is giving them the technology to do it. Yeah. There is no need to talk about nuclear brinkmanship. Putin does that, and there's already an established response. I am against any NATO boots on the ground in the Ukraine. That's you can send in military advisors in civilian clothes. In other words, you get special forces or former military officers who function in an advisory capacity as civilians. Once they're out of the military, that's always gone on, and it will always go on. The CIA does it, MI6 does it, they all do it. But to actually put NATO troops on the ground, that is not advisable at the present time. It's simply, and it's not necessary. Concerning the second thing with Mr. And remember, he's in trouble economically in his own country. He has to play the nationalist card. Vive la France, vive la République, vive le proletariat. He has to go back with his Napoleonic complex, a Napoleon complex, the Battle of Austerlitz and things like this. As to the second, where was his school? Excusez-moi, Monsieur Macron. Where is l'école de vous? Who was your teacher? You had a crush on the teacher?
Yeah, he did.
Well, you know what people are saying now.
Married his teacher.
The teacher had a brother, and his name, what was his name?
Jean-Michel.
Jean-Michel. Where's Monsieur Jean-Michel, s'il vous plaît? Ici, je suis Brigitte, bonjour. Brigitte, qu'est-ce que je peux faire pour vous aujourd'hui, mademoiselle? Oh, madame Macron, Brigitte. Bonjour. La femme? J'ai la femme.
All
Well-
I'm gonna say about Miss Macron is she's got nothing on Josephine. I will take a
Yeah,
painted oil of Josephine over
Yeah.
her any day.
yeah. Josephine was a hot soul sister. What's this thing? Some people say she's a tranny.
Well, if Obama can have one, why not Macron?
Yeah, but at least Michelle Obama's a girl. I mean, there's actually people in France in the press speculating that his wife is transsexual. I don't know if it's true, but it's rather.
It's on the magazines. Yeah, it's on the magazines.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Now, Jacob, I want to ask you about Napoleon real quick because it struck me what you wrote on Shadows of the Beast about Napoleon. And for the first time in a long time, there were actually believers in Europe who were believing that now Bible prophecy, it's going to be real. It's actually a real possibility that these things are being fulfilled, not spiritually, but literally. And they saw Napoleon going in, being, crowned the Holy Roman Emperor, and he was wanting to take over, going into the Middle East, and they thought he was the Antichrist. Can you speak a little bit on that? Remind us of that.
What's in the book Shadows of the Beast? Napoleon, the strategic control and economic control of the Middle East shifted from the Crusades to the Muslims with Salah ad-Din. Napoleon invades the Middle East. He defeats the Muslim Mamelukes near the pyramids in Egypt.
Yep.
The big naval battle involving the British in the Eastern Mediterranean near Akko, ancient Ptolemy, today called Akko in Galilee. But Napoleon goes to Mount Tabor, Har Tabor, where the story of Deborah takes place. This overlooks Nazareth, and it's opposite Armageddon, Har Megiddo. It's opposite Har Megiddo, in the Valley of Jezreel. And he goes up there, and he says, this is the perfect place for my ultimate military campaign. He throws the balance of power in the Middle East back into Europe that the Crusades lost against the Muslims, Salah ad-Din, at the Horns of Hattin in the Dark Ages, in the Dark Ages. Then he goes back to Europe with an ambition of reconfederating the nations in the Roman Empire under an imperial France. Now, again, he was a product of the French Revolution that deposed the monarchy. But once he had this power, he goes into Notre Dame Cathedral and puts the emperor's crown on his own head. Believers in England, that time they were called evangelical Protestants or high church Anglicans. Not high church, low church Anglicans. They really were afraid that Napoleon was the Antichrist. There were believers who really believed it. He looked just like it, going to resurrect the Roman Empire. He said he's going to bring the Jews back to Israel. He's re-secured control of the Middle East from the Muslim world. They thought this. Now you have to remember, in the 16th century, the Muslims reached Vienna. There was always a threat of the Muslims.
Right.
Now Napoleon goes back there and the game changes. And of course, later it changed with the British as well. But that really happened. Charles Martel fought the Muslims, and the Khazar Empire fought the Muslims, and all this kind of stuff. But Napoleon comes in like Charlemagne and tries to make the Holy Roman Empire under the control of France and resurrect the Holy Roman Empire. this really scared people. I think that perhaps Macron has a Napoleonic complex. France has not performed, even in World War I, their performance left a lot to be desired. At least then they put up a fight, not a very successful one. It wasn't for the Americans entering the war on behalf of the British and French that I don't know if they could have beat the Kaiser. But France has always had this complex. D-Day, the Normandy invasions, the French were only minor partners in it. It was the British and the Americans. During the Cold War, de Gaulle pulled French troops out of NATO and hit on back of the Anglo-American defense barrier that was situated in Germany. France has always had this inferiority complex. Not only that, but its best combat troops were not French. They were the French Foreign Legion. They're similar to American Marines. They're just like war robots almost. But and then there's not a lot of them. They were the best French fighters. So France has had this complex. We have not really been a very strong power since Napoleon. We lost Dien Bien Phu to the communists in Vietnam. We lost Algiers to the Muslims. You know, they would like to revive their national sense of integrity as a military force to be reckoned with. And they see NATO as a platform to do it. That is part of what's happening. And Macron is trying to salvage his own legacy by that medium. Now, he has to move to the right politically, domestically, because he's afraid of the electoral gains made by Le Pen's daughter, by Jean-Marie Le Pen's daughter. Okay? Yes. He's afraid of the extreme right, so he has to move to the right to garner some of the right-wing voters back for himself. So again, just like the United States, it's and Britain, and Israel, it's a matter of domestic politics. That is the other factor.
Yeah, it is getting really, really, really hot in Europe with this idea of war coming. And, you know, to speak on the economic collapse that's going on in the world, all the countries, every Western Hemisphere, Eastern Hemisphere, it's all happening. Southern Hemisphere collapsing, even China getting hit pretty hard this week. Jacob, it's all setting up for a major war to set up some kind of cashless society, which has been the goal of a lot of these globalists, the digital currency, to stabilize the economy.
As we've been saying, the Schwab Slavs are a dangerous brood of people.
Yeah, they are.
Nobody is more vocal as to what their real agenda is as Hariri. He says that human rights, political freedom, these things are illusions. He's a homosexual, of course, and he's not a computer scientist himself. He's a medieval historian, but he's an advisor to Schwab. This is their agenda. They know that unfunded liabilities, they know that government deficits and astronomical debt that cannot be repaid. They need a solution. They need a reset. That is their thinking.
That's right.
They want to go. But let's look at something. As we've been saying over the last 4 to 6 weeks, everybody is in trouble. This past week, the total stock market losses that China has experienced over the last 2.5 years have now reached 9.8 trillion US dollars. 9.8 trillion. And there's more to come. The CCP is not telling the entire truth. It's mainly foreign corporations who have investments in China who will give you the most accurate information about what's really happening with the Chinese economy, not the CCP. They, of course, whitewash everything to suit their own political agenda. That's a serious mess in China. 9.8 trillion.
Yeah.
8 trillion loss of equity in their capital markets and in their equity markets.
Free falling.
This is unbelievable. Germany is in trouble. Yet Germany overtook Japan as the world's third biggest economy when Germany is in persistent recession. Yet Japan overtook China's stock market. The Tokyo stock market overtook Shanghai and Han Sen overtook Hong Kong. Not because Japan is doing well, Japan is doing badly, but because China is doing worse.
Worst, yeah.
And then Germany overtakes Japan, not because Germany is doing well, but because Japan is doing worse. How much longer can this go on? The United States has not gone into recession simply because they are pumping up the inflation on artificial life support with higher deficit spending and with inflation. That's what they're doing. That's the only reason the United States is not in a recession like Germany is and like Britain is. This is what we're dealing with. Nobody is doing well. Nobody. Yeah. Other places like China and Russia may be in a more precarious state, but nobody's doing well. And they have there's no clear way out of it.
Jacob, may I ask you to, just for 1 minute, please explain, I know you've explained it many times before, but could you please just reiterate why watching current news events is so important to being able to use prophecy as a gospel tool?
Jesus spoke of a constellation of events that were to transpire of prophetic significance. This involves a panorama of things that are basically crystallized in the Olivet Discourse. Luke 21, Matthew 24, Mark 13, and so forth. Jesus did not exhort or encourage. He commanded. He commanded. Therefore, be on the alert. You do not know which day your Lord is coming. Watch for these signs. When you see these things happening, it was not an option. It was a command, of Christ to be watchful. Hence, Satan raised up Rick Warren to say, no, ignore end-time prophecy. It's a diversion. Satan is saying, keep away from it. And he has his spokesman, Rick Warren. Jesus says, watch out for these things. When you see these things happening, and he speaks about the parable of the fig tree, which has a much broader meaning than most people realize. Jesus said, watch for these things. Daniel tells us none of the wicked are going to understand. None of the wicked are going to understand. But the faithful believers are meant to understand. Prophecy and its study is not an option. Let he who has wisdom count the number of the beast. The Lord is our wisdom. Those who are the Lord's will be able to identify the Antichrist through the abomination of desolation and through understanding the number of the beast, which probably relates to gematria, or isopsophy, as it's called in Greek. Probably. Well, but the devil raises up people, ignorant religious babblers, particularly among pre-tribulationists, who say, oh, don't worry about that stuff. We're not going to be here. You don't have to worry about the Antichrist. We'll be out of here before it happens. No. Don't listen to pre-tribulationist so-called Bible teachers. Don't listen to Rick Warren. Listen to Jesus Christ. He gave that revelation to John. We are to know these things. Seal these things up until the appointed time, Daniel is told, and they will be unsealed. It is not an option. It is not an admonishment. It is not an encouragement. It is a command of the Lord.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate it. And by the way, we're going to be talking more about prophecy and the signs of prophecy, the good signs that Jesus talked about, and the made-up signs that some people are talking about, including April 8th. So stay tuned for that. At the end of this episode, we'll be going to backstage, and Jacob is going to talk about April 8th, what he thinks about it, what he thinks about the people that are promoting it, and ramping up, much confusion and ramping up much controversy in the body of Christ. But we'll stay tuned for that, so you don't want to miss that. Jacob, 1804, Napoleon sends his general to squelch down the rebellion in Haiti. Haiti wins. Talk about Napoleon, talk about Haiti, and now they're independent. 1804, National Day of Independence. Haiti's been independent for quite a long time. Unfortunately, things have not gone well for Haiti, and it's descending into chaos, violence, cannibalism. Jacob, speak a little bit about that because we brought it up last week, but now it's gotten worse. Now you got 200 gangs running the show, and the prime minister has stepped down.
The first anti-French, anti-colonial rebellion in Haiti began in the 1790s. At the very, very beginning of the 19th century, Napoleon tries to put down the rebellion, but it began sometime earlier, okay? Haiti was the first country in the Western Hemisphere to depose colonialism, okay? Outside of the United States, okay? It was the first one to depose it. It is the oldest Black-ruled country in the world, with the exception of Ethiopia. It's the oldest Black-ruled country in the world, with the exception of Ethiopia. What you find with the present race machine, the racocrats, are always talking about slavery and always talking about what happened 150 years ago and what happened 100 years ago. And Black people shouldn't have to pay taxes, some of them are saying now, because of what was done to Blacks 150 years ago. What absurdity. American Blacks have the highest standard of living for Black people anywhere in the world, including those with Black governments. Post-colonial Africa is a disaster. I was against the apartheid, but as Desmond Tutu, whom I did not like theologically, admitted before he died, the Bishop Tutu in Cape Town, the ANC simply replaced one evil, apartheid, with another. That country is worse off, and Blacks are worse off now economically, and everything from unemployment to infant mortality to longevity. They're worse off in every possible way. But instead of looking at the realities of post-colonial Africa, instead of looking at the realities of Haiti, countries that have been ruled by Blacks for hundreds of years, it's easy to blame white people for something that happened 150 or 50 years ago. It's easier to blame white people for absentee fatherhood and a failed school system, courtesy of the Democratic Party and the Teachers Union, which is simply a political campaign fund for the Democratic Party. Instead of putting the blame where it belongs, you make yourself a Black stooge for white liberals. White people did not abduct Blacks. They bought them from their own tribal chiefs or from chiefs who conquered other tribes. That is how slavery came. White people abducted nobody. Slavery already existed in Africa, and it still exists to this day in Chad, in Mauritania, in Niger. Rich Muslims own Black slaves in Africa to this day. Black Africa has never abolished slavery. The Islamic world has never abolished slavery, but you've got to be up in arms about countries that did abolish it 150 years ago, and with the British longer than that. As Candace Owen correctly pointed out, white people did not invent Black slavery, but white people ended it.
That's right.
But
Absolutely.
you don't tell the truth. You do not tell the truth. You have to engage in revisionism and manipulate ignorant, uneducated people with lies in order to control them politically and to divide society with the divide and conquer strategy. That is exactly what is happening. You want to see a Black country with Black rule? Look at Haiti. It's been ruled by Blacks since the very early 1800s. They rebelled against France in the 1790s. Look. Find me one country in post-colonial Africa, and I've been to many. I've been to Uganda. I've been to Kenya. I've been to Tanzania. I've been to Zambia. Find me one. Zimbabwe, certainly. Find me one where Black people were not better off under European colonialism. And I don't like colonialism. I favor Black independence. But if I was a black person, I might not, because they were better off living under European governments than they are under their own governments. Why? One reason is tribalism. Another reason is pagan religion.
Hmm.
What is Haiti's problem? Voodoo, a
Yeah.
mixture of voodoo and Catholicism. And it's not just the black world. You've got Santeria, the same.
Oh, yeah. Latin world. Yeah. Santeria.
It's the same thing. It's the same demonic power.
Yeah.
If
You
I
got
may
this.
add a little
Oh, go
bit
ahead,
to what
Jake.
Jacob's saying,
Yeah.
you know, another reason why they continue to beat the dead horse of 19th and 20th century slavery is the simple fact that today in the Western world, we still have slavery. It's called human trafficking.
Yes.
It's illegal gangs in Mexico that will smuggle people over here and
Yep.
keep them in perpetual slavery to them, working on pot farms, working in brothels. Slavery never went away. And if we continue to look at the sins of the past, we will never defeat the slavery that's here today.
That's
Evil.
correct.
That's right. And you
Look
know,
at the
Jake,
past so you can ignore the future. They
yeah.
must divert attention away from the present and their inability to deliver a future by pointing to the past. That is the strategy of the ANC, and that is the strategy of the NAACP.
Yeah, strategy of Satan for sure. It was actually Christians. It was actually Christians in politics and governments and society who were the major influence in why slavery ended in America, in the UK,
Abolitionism.
democracies. Absolutely, they were Christians who preached the gospel and people got saved. Now you have a taskmaster and a slave, and they were both Christians. They were brother and brother. They couldn't be that to each other, and they made peace in Christ. And that's the only way you're going to have peace. It's only in Christ. Jacob, this man called himself Barbecue. He's a gang leader. He's into cannibalism. Now, it's not the sustainable cannibalism for food. It's for shock and awe, but he kills people, boils them, and he eats their finger. This is rampant now in Haiti.
Yes.
And you got missionaries who are begging to get out of there, but our State Department has turned a deaf ear to them.
Yep.
Talk about
Biden
that.
and Blinken don't care about the American missionaries who are in Haiti, basically to take care of impoverished orphans. Most of the American missionaries in Haiti take care of impoverished orphans and sick orphans. Blinken State Department, Biden administration is not lifting a finger to help them. That is true. As far as the cannibalism, again, this is something that is unbelievable to us, perhaps, but you have to understand the strong influences of voodooism in Haiti going back to Papa Doc. And you've got blood consumption and other kinds of rituals like this that come into play in voodoo. So it is not completely alien to their mentality, but he does it to dismember people's digits and chew on them and things like this to scare and intimidate any potential political rivals.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's unbelievable. And you remember you talked about some of the things that happened in 70 AD in the Babylonian right before the Babylonian captivity.
Yes.
And it's going to happen again. And when a society descends like that into
Yes.
such chaos and lack of food and violence, and you got this guy named
Yes.
Barbecue going around targeting missionaries, targeting
Yes.
other people that are there to help.
Yes.
Missionaries are begging to get out. I think there was Corey Mills, a representative from
Yes.
Florida, got 10 missionaries out.
Yes. Only 10.
Yeah, Half Faith Orphanage. But there's other ones there, and the State Department doesn't want to do anything about it, just like what happened in Afghanistan. And so this is a major play what's going on there. And all the by the way, all the Christian missionaries and all the workers, they all report that one of the things that happened in Haiti that was devastating to them was the Clinton Foundation being and the smuggling that happened, and children were being, they disappeared. All of a sudden, they disappeared as soon as the Clintons got there. So there's much to be said about that. Again, same pattern. Another Democrat.
Again, I've seen the damage that the Clintons did in Uganda.
Oh,
and it
man.
is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. Jacob, is he going to desert Christians now in Haiti? Joe Biden, does it seem like he's deserting them again?
I have no doubt he would.
Man, unreal. but no one's going to care about it, I guess, because the Christians taking care of the poor. But even DeSantis wants to send out border agents to be placed in Florida because 100,000 of them unvetted
Yes.
coming through the border, and these are the same gangs through the
Yes.
border, the same gangs. And my fear is that you're going to have this kind of violence in this country, along with the Venezuelan gangs that Maduro's letting go of prison and going
Yes.
right into the border. No border check, unvetted.
Notice that these Haitian refugees don't want to go to Cuba and enjoy the blessings of Marxism.
Yeah, I don't know. Castro doesn't want him there.
Yeah.
Castro doesn't want him
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, but Maduro wants to let them out because he wants to make this
Sure.
deal with Iran, this oil alliance, more of an oil alliance, because the U.S. is ready to hit them with sanctions again. Now that they've used up some of the oil, they want to hit them in sanctions again. So they're lining up with Iran even further with the prices surging because of the supply risk. This is going to hit us right in the face with all these economic troubles. But Biden doesn't care. He just wants to make this deal with
Yes.
Iran.
Don't forget the other factor is Guyana.
Oh yeah, in South America, right by
Yes.
Brazil and Venezuela. Yeah, that is another problem, which we already have troops there. We're sending troops to Haiti.
Yes.
And the Biden administration is trying to make relief sanctions to Iran. That's his
Yeah.
major concern.
That's
Relief
correct.
sanctions to Iran. Jacob, what?
Iran has a 36% inflation rate. Their
Yeah.
economy is getting in trouble again, despite all the money that Obama and Biden gave to them.
Billions.
Together, unfrozen assets and the other money through Korea. And what Obama gave to them on that airplane that when they found out they got caught, you're
Cold
talking
cash.
something like a total of $600 billion to fund Islamic terror. As we've been saying, Iran is the #1 sponsor of radical terror in the world, Islamic terror. And the Biden or Joe Obama administration is the #1 sponsor of Iran. You're
no mistake
talking
about it.
about something that anybody looking at it rationally and honestly, I don't see how you wouldn't conclude that it is a betrayal.
Make no mistake about it. As soon as they unfroze the assets, less than a month, you had October 7th, and
That's
then
right.
the tragedy
That's
that
right.
happened, the attack. So this is
Biden,
again.
Biden paid for it.
Yeah, he did. Now, with that money, the Houthis now have hypersonic missiles from
Yes.
Iran via Russia.
Yeah.
So you're fighting one and you're supplying the other. It's
Trying to
just,
stop what the Houthis are doing. Well, you paid for it.
yeah, they did.
You gave Iran the money to do it.
Oh man, it's so bad. Now they can hit targets very far away. Any target that can go down to the Cape of Good Hope, they're going to hit them.
Yeah, they're threatening to shoot at ships that are traveling down the east coast of Africa to go around the Cape of Good Hope and up the west coast of Africa to Europe.
This hypersonic missiles have Mach 8 speed, eight times the speed of sound.
Yes.
I mean, you're not going to be able to get away from them.
No, look, the only thing you can do is hit Iran or make it clear to Iran, if this doesn't stop, we're coming after you. You have to stand up to Iran the way that Trump did. But unfortunately, Barack Obama and Joe Biden, Iran had two pockets. Obama was in one and Biden's in the other. They betrayed the country.
You couldn't say it any other way. You couldn't say it any other way. But
Look, why is this happening with Hamas? Biden paid for it. Obama paid for it. Why is this happening with Hezbollah? Who paid for it? The American government.
Yeah, that's right. Even the UK wants to use, direct energy weapons.
Yes.
But they're not being allowed to do it. They can shoot a drone, one of those Houthi drones, for about $13. They can shoot it down for about $13, but they're not being allowed to do it.
With those weapons are still being perfected, they can say that, and that may be a legitimate claim. I don't know how advanced that technology is yet, but I do know it exists.
Yeah, these secret talks with Iran, it troubles me, Jacob. This happened in January. Nobody knew about it until now, and nothing's being done about it.
Nothing. You have betrayal. People like Biden, Harris, people like Austin, people, certainly Jake Sullivan. I find it almost impossible to find any other definition for what they're doing other than betrayal.
Yeah, it's happening left and right. Let's talk about another thing that's interesting in social media, the ban of TikTok. This bill that is going to go to the Senate now, It's a bill banning TikTok, the Chinese app, the CCP app, owned by ByteDance, who reports to the CCP. There are some Republicans and Democrats who are saying absolutely not. We need to take this app down. Jacob, is it opening up some doors to what Congress can do, or what do you think this is happening?
I think there are two aspects of it. The first aspect is, well, that I pointed out was it is part and parcel of an overall strategy to contain China's advancement into ultra high-tech cyber technology. Restrictions on giving microchips and particularly advanced innovative chip technology that comes from Taiwan, that comes from South Korea, that comes from Holland, and that comes from Silicon Valley. It is part and parcel of that restriction wanting to stop China from getting that technology and passing it on to Russia, because the Russian embargoes prevent them from getting that kind of chip technology. So it relates to the Ukraine war as well. Second is, as you pointed out, Marco, that they make an example. Look, if we can go after TikTok, who can't we go after?
Exactly. That's my concern, and it's a both parties agreed to this, to give power to the thing that bugs me about it the most is Congress knows what the CCP does with buying land next to a military bases. Everything, just about everything in America is made in China. They have the pharmaceuticals, they have the virus thing that they released to the gift to the world. Congress, nothing. This app, oh, we have to go after it. It's from both parties, the hypocrisy of not dealing with the CCP. All of a sudden it's an issue. All of a sudden,
well, again, I've been saying for some time, why does the Biden administration not crack down on China buying this land?
Absolutely.
But they've threatened to litigate against states who put those restrictions. Sue the states. Secondly, of course, those Chinese balloons. Why didn't Biden shoot them down over the bases? Is Biden and his son, are they Chinese assets? Or are they being blackmailed somehow by China? Is Biden a Chinese asset? We cannot say he is not. We cannot say he's not. That is for sure. But another issue is there are Chinese manufactured drones flying over the United States from Mexico every day of the week. They're being used by the cartels to assist in their smuggling. But you've got like Fort Huachuca in southern Arizona, down by Bisbee. That's right on the border. And that is a major military intelligence base. These drones are flying across the border every day, and they're Chinese manufactured. You have embedded technology in TikTok and throughout TikTok. You've got stupid people saying, don't close down TikTok. China is building up a database on them personally.
Oh, it's an invasive app.
These stupid people, too stupid to know it. What they would like to do, and what should be done quickly, is force China to sell it. Just force China to sell it to Rumble. Rumble's willing to buy it.
Rumble wants to buy that. That would be interesting, Jay. You had Rumble. You have access to TikTok right away.
That would be great. Also, I would like to mention that China, through shell companies, own a lot of the farms in the Midwest, in the Bible Belt, actually, that grow a lot of the pot for the United States. So it's between that, they also send immigrants to work those farms for almost nothing, and they keep them there as slaves. So it all ties together. China wants to dumb America down. They use TikTok to do it. They use drugs to do that. They use fentanyl to do that. They have been for years playing an opium war against the United States. They are playing the exact same thing that the British did to them.
That is correct.
Playing it on the West.
And doing with fentanyl. They're doing with fentanyl and with pot, but particularly fentanyl. You know, I don't know who owns the Joe Obama machine more, the Biden-Obama machine more, China or Iran.
I know. You can't really tell sometimes.
With Bush, I know. The Saudi Arabians had the Bush dynasty in their back pocket. There was no question who controlled Bush and Cheney. The Saudis had the Bush administration in their back pocket, and his vassals like Cheney. There's no question. But now Biden, he's beholden to so many. Who owns him?
I don't even think they know.
Or whoever owns them, it's not the American people.
Yeah, the devil. Absolutely the devil. Jacob, did we hit the hour mark yet, Davey? I think we did. Just want to remind everyone, thank you for watching live. We hit the hour mark, and usually we remind people about, well, we like to thank you for watching live and watch later, but also remind you you're watching catching up on different platforms. We will be going over to backstage, and we got a very powerful backstage. It is the April 8th eclipse, the solar eclipse that a lot of prophecy teachers and updates have been coming around and saying something's going to happen that day. Well, Jacob's going to tell us about it, and he is going to mention names, and he's going to hold no prisoners. We're going to talk about it and give a good response to much of the confusion that's going on there. So that is on backstage. So don't miss out on that. As soon as we're done with this episode on catching up, we'll jump over to the backstage aspect of the show, and you'll be able to hear Jacob answer questions, and we'll be talking about April 8th. Jacob, Hezbollah has fired more than 100 rockets this week into Israel. The retaliation has been there, but Israel's very quiet about it because they still got to deal with the Gaza situation. So this happened on Monday down by the Israeli response was to the Bekaa Valley, and then
Yes.
some of the Israeli cities were hit. 80,000 Israelis have been displaced already. The
Yes.
news doesn't say that. News is not talking about it since the attack of Hezbollah into northern Israel. Jacob, talk a little bit about that and the response that the U.S. is giving Netanyahu, because they're frowning upon Rafah, they're frowning upon Lebanon and the attack from Hezbollah, that Israel cannot respond, cannot defend itself. The red lines pretty much have been set by Biden and Bibi, and it's coming to a halt there. So go ahead and take it away.
We have to remember that the Obama administration, that Biden and the Obama's people who control him, they do not represent the interests of the United States or of America's friends or allies, such as Israel. They are in bed with the Iranians. They're selling the country down the river to Islamic terror. They are funding it by the unfreezing of Iranian assets. We already have established that. That is exactly their policy. They are the enemies of America. They are the enemies of Israel, the Democratic Party. The one thing curtailing them is the fact that it's an election year and there are still enough stupid left-wing American Jews who vote Democrat, and they don't want to lose that. But let's look at what's happening. Why are they wanting to build that dock to bring supplies into Gaza and airdropping supplies into Gaza? When it was 400,000 killed in Yemen, they didn't care about the Arab Muslims. When it was 450,000 killed in Syria, they didn't care about it. It's only when Israel defends itself from Iranian-sponsored terror that it becomes an issue. You have the Islamic communities of Chicago and Michigan protesting the Democratic Party.
Yep.
Biden has to find a way to placate those people. He's building this dock, and he's sending the 17th Transport Battalion of the U.S. Army to do it. Putting American troops on the ground to supply Hamas, because those supplies are not going to the people, they're going to Hamas. Very little of those supplies go to the people. Most of the aid provided by the UN and by the USA winds up in the hands of Hamas, and then Hamas either sells it or uses it for its own purpose. This is the first joke, lie, and Obama knows it. Austin knows it. Blinken knows it. Jake Sullivan knows it. Kamala Harris knows it. This is what's happening. These protests in Chicago and in Michigan. Now Biden has put further sanctions against West Bank Jews living in the West Bank, making this the big issue. There was no issue when you had the genocide in Syria. Barack Obama, being the spineless coward he is, and the liar he is, said he drew a red line: don't use chemical weapons against your own people in Syria. When they did, Obama did nothing because he's a limp-wristed coward. And that's all he's ever been, is a limp-wristed coward. Essentially, he won't do it. He did nothing. It's all politically motivated. If this was not an election year, the daggers would really come out for Israel.
That's right.
But But there are the Menlauses. A Menlaus is to the Jewish world what Benedict Arnold is to the United States, or Judas is to the Christian world. The traitor, the Jewish traitor, from the story of Hanukkah and the Maccabees. One Menlaus is Chuck Schumer, senator from New York. He's now calling for the deposing of Benjamin Netanyahu in national elections in Israel. He's denouncing conservative Israelis and conservative American Jews as bigots. Bigots. People who stand against radical Islamic terror are bigots, lying about them. Schumer is lying, saying that they are the ones who opposed the Palestinian state. The Palestinians could have had a state from Ehud Barak, and they turned it down. They could have had a Palestinian state in Gaza, and they turned it down in 2005, 2006. Now they're saying, no, they only want one nation from the river to the sea, from the Jordan to the Mediterranean.
Unreal.
Yet Schumer, being the liar he is, lying against other Jews, lying, selling his own people down the river, as well as betraying America, is saying that these people are bigots. You defend yourself from Islamic terror, you're a bigot, says Schumer. This is what you're dealing with. He is a Menlaus. He is a traitor. The Maccabees killed people like him. The Maccabees killed people like him. Well, his crimes are just as bad. I pray the God of Israel raises his hand against Schumer, against Wasserman Schultz, against Blumenthal, against Adam Schiff, against Jerry Nadler, and against these other Menlauses, all of them. And not least of all, Spitzer, the governor of Illinois.
Illinois, yeah.
Although Illinois will remain Democrat, the Democrats are losing electoral support in Illinois. They're losing power. Not as many people are going to vote for Biden as voted for him the last time or voted for Obama. They're even beginning to lose control in blue states, certain blue states, Washington being one, Illinois being another, because Biden or Joe Obama is such a bad president. But let's go further with this. What else are they doing? Their mainstream media is publishing the fake Hamas fatality and casualty statistics from Gaza. The State Department knows they're being exaggerated and manipulated. They know that Hamas is using its own people as human shields. It attacks Israel, uses its own people as human shields, and then when the Israelis fight back in self-defense and there's collateral damage killing their own civilians who they're using as shields, they exaggerate the numbers of them and are supported, of course, by the international left wing and social media. And the State Department knows that this is what's happening. They know very well. It's all a big lie. So what does Biden want to do? Instead of saying, we will allow supplies, food, water, medication, oil into Gaza as soon as you release the prisoners, no, we're going to airdrop that stuff so Hamas can confiscate it. Hamas said there will be more October 7th. They're going to continue the jihad, not just against Israel and the Zionists, but against all Jews. Then they're going to go after the Christians. They've actually stated that in Qatar. Their senior leadership has stated it, and Biden wants to make sure they have the wherewithal and means to do it. He wants to make sure they survive. Netanyahu does not. Netanyahu wants to go into Rafah and put an end to them, and then turn his attention towards Hezbollah in the north.
Yeah, that's what he said, for sure.
This is what is really happening. The wickedness and the evil of Biden and Barack Obama, their betrayal of America, their betrayal of Israel, but even the worst betrayal of America and Israel by Schumer and left-wing American Jews who are in the same party with the squad is unbelievable.
Jacob, do you think there'll be any repercussions for Netanyahu if he does go through with Rafah? Because it looks like Biden is it's say, don't go in there. We're going to make sure that you don't use even our own weapons You can use American weapons in Rafah. Do you think that? I mean, I know they're trying to get him out. I know Schumer said there needs to be another election. That needs to get him out. But do you think that there will be some kind of retaliation? Maybe they'll vote for a ceasefire instead of abstaining from it.
The pressure coming on Israel is unbelievable. Now, bear in mind, Netanyahu was in a very precarious position politically because the attack took them by surprise. And as Rosh HaMemshalah, as prime minister, he must bear primary responsibility with his own government. So he's in a politically vulnerable situation for legitimate reasons in his own country. But of course, the Biden administration is playing this card. They can say things like Netanyahu failed to provide protective leadership, and this surprise attack came because Netanyahu was not watching Hamas. He was not watching Gaza. They'll play any card they can get. What we can be sure of is the following. If it was not an election year, the Biden administration would be raising an even stronger hand against Israel. This is for sure. The fact that it's an election year is somewhat restraining the capacity of Biden to sell Israel down the river even further in favor of Iran.
I know there's a lot of there's been tension in Israel, especially directed toward Netanyahu. Jacob, do you think there'll be another election?
It could happen, but because of the war, Israel is in survival mode.
Yeah.
And I think there'll be a day of reckoning politically after the war. But in the meantime, as long as the war is going on, the nation could not handle an election campaign right now. On the other hand, you've got Naftali Bennett and these other people. Let's not forget, in order to try to retain power, the Israeli right, the Likud party and so forth, has to seem tough. That's the only way they can have a credible platform against the Labor Party.
Yep.
What happened when Golda Meir fell from power after the Yom Kippur War in 1973 that brought Menachem Begin and the Likud to power in coalition with the National Religious Party. She was held to account for what happened on Yom Kippur. Moshe Dayan saved his own neck by changing parties, but they got rid of Golda and she paid the price for it. Mr. Netanyahu is very well aware of the fact that his government is culpable for that attack coming as it did by a complete surprise. He's quite culpable and he's quite vulnerable politically. So there is a vested interest in perpetuating a war by the Israeli right. I'm not saying that they're doing that aggressively or provoking it, but I am saying it works to their political advantage.
Yeah. It's just amazing to think of the scriptures. The scripture talks about Israel, talks about Jerusalem being a burdensome stone and a heavy stone upon those, and those who try to heave it away will be severely hurt. It's what Biden's dealing with. It's at the center of it all is the controversy of Israel and the Jews are in the middle of it. And he's against them and he wants to get rid of them, but he can't because God is going to hold it over his head.
It's no different than the South African government saying to South African Jews who have Israeli dual citizenship that if you fight in the Israeli army, we're going to arrest you if you come back to South Africa. But they don't say that about Muslims, about South African Muslims who go fight with Islamic terror. It's only against the Jews. Well, Biden's the same. It's just that he cannot politically get away with it to the same degree as the ANC. But he's no different than they are.
You know, I've seen American presidents go down the tube because of what they failed to do or did to do to Israel and the Jewish people. And it holds true. God holds it over the nations, how they treat his people. And it's a burdensome stone. And I've seen many presidents go down this road. It seems like Biden does not want to deal with Israel. He has to. He has to placate to the Muslim world. He has to placate to the Muslim vote in America, which is increasingly powerful and more vocal. So I don't think it comes out of this good. I think God's hand is going to be against Biden and against what he says, especially what he does. I mean, the Christians in Haiti, I mean, turning his blind eye to it and just pretending it's not there. it's just another indication of how evil our political system has become. Both parties. I don't necessarily
Both
want one
parties.
seems to be one more
Both
than the other.
parties.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, both parties. But Israel has not had a bigger enemy in the White House than Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And Christianity has not had a bigger enemy in the White House
Yeah.
than Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
At a time like this, evil has really
These are
surpassed.
evil men. We must pray that God raises his hand against them. This very week, on the campaign trail, Kamala Harris was giving a political campaign speech in an abortion clinic.
Yeah, in Minnesota.
Yeah, in an abortion clinic.
Yeah.
These are evil people. We must pray that not only that they're defeated, and I'm not taking sides with the Republicans, I'm just saying stop these evil leaders. But that God raises his hand against them. God must raise his hand against them. Or our
That's right.
nation is coming under judgment in the United States.
It's crazy. That's exactly the election time, and exactly what we need to do is pray for our nation. As Paul the Apostle prayed for or asked for prayer to the Thessalonians in the last chapter of his second letter, brothers and sisters, pray for us that the message of the Lord may rapidly be honored, and just as it was with you, and pray that we may be delivered from wicked people and from the devil, from evil, for not everyone has faith. So be delivered from evil and evil people. Not everyone has faith. But the Lord is faithful, he says, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. That is exactly what we need to pray for. And that God will deliver us from evil men, evil people that are causing such tremendous evil in the world, being unleashed because of their wickedness. And of course, Satan's using them. Jacob, we're going to go over to backstage. And I want to let everybody know that switch over, because we're going to be talking about April 8th and what that means. Because as we're talking about the judgment of God and judgment over nations, well, some people are saying there is a specific date that's coming. It looks like America's on the crosshair with the Lord. So is it April 8th? Is it another date? Are we under judgment already? And we're just, and there's just more, I guess people are putting a date to it rather than what the scripture has to say. All that, we'll be talking about it with Jacob Prash on Backstage. So please.
One more very brief point, Michael. Sorry, one more very brief point. Please pray against this online harms act in Canada being pushed by Trudeau's government. It will make it a criminal offense to say things contrary to the policies of the Trudeau government, essentially. We already saw what he was capable of, freezing the bank accounts of people for giving cookies to truck drivers in the COVID protests. He's an enemy of democracy. He's an enemy of freedom. I believe the man is an enemy of Canada. He's a wicked, wicked man. He's similar to Andrews in Victoria, Australia. He's similar to Ardern in New Zealand. He's a dangerous man. Please pray against this law. It will be it's a nail in the coffin of Canadian democracy. The Online Harms Act. Please pray that this law does not go through and that God removes Trudeau.
Well, it will be his trifecta. He's passed 3 different bills and trying to destroy any sort of free speech, any Christian speech, apprehension of pastors. So much to talk about. We should talk about Canada soon, one of these days, and lay out some of the stuff that Jake was brought out, plus other things. So God bless you guys. We'll see you on Backstage in just a few minutes.
Hello, and thank you for watching Moriel TV. There are so many things that are happening at Moriel Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan, to India to Africa, and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.